Hello there and welcome to this presentation on what is university from Royal Holloway, University of London. My name's Alice and I'm going to be taking you through the presentation today, but just whilst we are getting started, I want you to have a think to yourself about the word university, as you can see on your screen there. When you think of the word university, what springs to mind? Maybe even just close your eyes if you want to and have a think. What do you think of when you hear the word university? What are your immediate thoughts? Teachers, if you're playing this for your students, feel free to pause the presentation at any time so that your students can have a bit of reflection time, and you're obviously more than welcome to carry on as soon as you're ready. So if you wrote down any of these terms, well done. You might have had something like research or student or degree, graduation, study, maybe lecture, maybe even a seminar. Buildings, you might have had something like beautiful to describe some of the beautiful university buildings that you might have seen, accommodation or halls, teachers, lecturers maybe science, those funny graduation hats. Well done if you thought of any of those words or anything else that might be related. So just to give you a little bit of information about universities, there are 130 universities in the UK and there are over 2,700 in Europe. Okay, so there's absolutely loads of them. Well, that's all well and good, but what actually is a university? So university is a place you can go to study after you leave sixth form or college or at any time in your life after 18. So most people do go to university once they've finished their A-levels in sixth form or college, but you can go at any time in your whole life. You don't have to be 18. And normally if you go when you're a little bit older than 18, you're called a mature learner. You can study anywhere in the country. As I just said, there's over 130 in the UK, or you can study in a different country. That's something that I did. I used to study in and work in Spain in my third year of university, and it was an amazing experience. So you can live there, which is called living away from home. So you move out of your family house and you go and live where your university is. You normally study one subject for a really long time so you can become an expert. Now most degrees, as you can see there, are 3 years. So you'd study that subject for 3 years, but some degree courses are even longer than that and you become a real expert in that one area. If you think about when you're going to sit your GCSEs, you might have 10 or even 11 or maybe even more GCSEs that you'll sit. And think how much knowledge you've gained from all of them. But with university, you just study one, so you get really knowledgeable about that topic. Now, something that a lot of people don't know is that universities take part in research to solve problems in the world or find out new things. So a lot of the money that we pay to go to university goes into them undertaking really important research to solve any problems in the world or to progress with things that we might know about. Now we've done our first activity, I'm just going to show you a very quick schedule of what we're going to be covering for the rest of today's session. So we've done our brainstorm about what's university. We're going to look at different sections of university, and the first one is about learning. The next is about living, and the last one is about the research that I just mentioned. And then we'll have some time for questions and answers at the end. As I said, the first part of university that we're going to look at today is all about learning. So how is university different to school? Well, at school, you'll have lessons. You might have 5 in a day for an hour, Monday to Friday. That's probably quite similar to what you do in your school. It might be a little bit different, but that's the kind of traditional way that you learn in school. Now at university, as I've said, you only choose one subject and you study that for at least 3 years. And your lessons are taught very differently depending on what you study. Now it says there that you can only choose one subject to study, but there is a possibility to do something called joint honours, which some of you might have heard of. Now, those of you who were listening at the beginning heard that I took English and Spanish as my degree, okay, and that was called a joint honours course where I did 50% English and 50% Spanish. And the reason for that is because I studied both of those subjects at school and absolutely loved them and just couldn't decide between the two. So I did joint honours because I knew that the subjects complemented each other really well. They kind of matched up with the jobs that I wanted to do in the future. So I found a university where I could study both of those subjects. You can do joint honours in lots of different subjects though. For example, history and French, or management and maths, physics and music. So, there's a whole combination of joint honours that you could do. So again, looking at the ways that you're taught. Now in school, you'll probably learn in a normal classroom for most of your subjects. Now, depending on what you study, you might not be learning in a traditional classroom. For example, if you're studying to become a paramedic, you'll spend a lot of your lessons responding to pretend emergency situations. So they'll set up kind of fake simulations for you to practice on the job, because there's no point you sitting and learning everything in a classroom, and then when you get into the real world of being a paramedic, you don't know what to do. So they set up these mock situations like you can see here, and they will teach you in a very practical, hands-on way. It's the same as if you were to do something like being a midwife. You would spend a lot of your university time in the hospital learning to deliver those babies. As well, if you were to study something like costume design or theatre production, which is obviously a bit different to a traditional school subject, you would spend a lot of your time at university in the studio designing and then making sure that the actors are ready to go on stage or in front of the camera. So it wouldn't be like, normal lessons at school where you just sit in the classroom. You'd actually be in a studio, in a design set, in a theatre, getting these people ready, if this was an example of a course that you might want to study. As well, if you're studying something like engineering or another type of science, you might be in a lab like this doing experiments. Or maybe something like this as well. Again, if you took veterinary science or veterinary nursing, you would work with a lot of animals. Okay, there's no point you going to university and hearing stories, from a lecturer for 3 years. What's the point of that? You need that hands-on experience. So for veterinary, it's normally 5 years, and you spend a lot of your time on rotations, doing practical things, helping those animals, learning how to be a vet. My best friend's actually training to be a vet, and it's really, really hard work because, one day she'll be on a farm, the next day she'll be in a normal vet practice. It changes week by week because she has to be ready. That's how she learns, because it's a very practical subject. Another way that university is different to school is that you learn in things called lectures. Now, normally you learn lectures in a lecture hall, and you can see a picture of that on the right-hand side there. Now, a lecture hall is normally a really, really, really big space, and potentially 200, maybe 300 people can fit in that lecture hall, all the other people that are on your course as well. And to put it into perspective, a lecture is a little bit like an assembly at school. But it might go on for 1 hour, it might go on for 3 hours, depending on what you're learning about, with a little break in the middle. And a really big difference is that you're allowed to take your computer or a notepad and a pen to take notes. So you can see in the picture there, lots of people have got laptops, and that's how they're choosing to take their notes from that lecture. I was a bit more traditional at university. I always liked to have my pen and paper to make lots of notes, and then I would type them up when I got home, so they were really neat. Obviously this is really relevant at the moment as well, but lots of lectures are recorded and available online as well, so if you can't make your lecture for whatever reason, you still manage to catch up. It's very, very different to school in that way. Flexibility is another really important aspect of how different university is to school. So as we've talked about, you can choose your course, and that's normally in just one subject or maybe 2 as the joint honours. But you also choose which part of your course you want to learn by choosing your modules. So you might be asking yourself, well, what's a module? What does that mean? So in the first year at university, you study core modules with your other peers that are on your degree course. But as you progress into your second and third year, you get a lot more choice over the modules that you want to study. So you can shape your degree into something that really, really interests you. So think about how broad history is. History is a huge, huge, huge topic. So as you were to get more and more into your degree, you could choose the modules in specific areas of history that interest you. So when you come out of university with your degree, you're an expert in an area that you've chosen. So to give you an example, if we were to look at the geography course at Royal Holloway, in their third year, the students who are studying this course have over 20 modules available, and they can pick what interests them. So they might have to do some core essential modules, but then they'll have a list, and this is just a couple. And this person might have chosen global warming, arid Africa, and volcanoes, because those are things that really, really interest them. So as I've said, you can choose the modules that you want, so you have control over your degree. And something else that's really different is that large parts of your timetable are empty for you to decide how to study. So I think one of the biggest differences with university is that you have a lot of choice and flexibility in how you learn and how you do your degree. Whereas at school you're told, at 9 o'clock you have this, 11 o'clock you have this is what you need to do here. A lot of it is down to you. So it's a lot more independent than school. And we're going to see an example of that now. So this is just a little screenshot of a student timetable. And this person is studying computer science, I believe, as an example. Now, depending on what you do study at university, so depending on the course, it might look a lot more full than this person's timetable here. For example, really, hands-on things like medicine are going to be a lot more busy than something like philosophy, for example, because a lot of it, in a hands-on subject, you need to be taught, whereas a lot of the kind of more creative subjects potentially will have time for you to reflect and do your research. So you can see here on this person's timetable that large parts of the week are left to you to decide what to do with your time. So you can see here that on a Monday, this person doesn't have any lectures until 4 o'clock in the afternoon. Again, on Tuesday, they're a little bit more busy. They've got two 2-hour slots there. And on Wednesday, they've got a session from 9 till 10, and then they're finished. So from 11 o'clock, they're free that day. So what would you do with your time if you had this timetable? Okay, would you dedicate some time to going to the library to make sure that your work is done? Maybe you want to get up nice and early on Monday morning to make sure that all of your work is ready for the week so that you can focus on your lectures. Do you want to play some sports on a Wednesday afternoon? That's what lots of universities do, where you have time to go and dedicate yourself to sports. Or maybe you could do something else, like you could do some volunteering or get a part-time job as well. That's what lots and lots of students do to fill out their time. But you have to make sure that you're in control of your timetable and how much work you get done. So you can see how lots of people might be a bit lazy and just think, oh, I don't have to do anything till 4 o'clock. And then suddenly it all catches up with them. So it's all about managing your own time. And this is something that you'll get used to as you go through school, because you will get a lot more kind of independence as you go on to sixth form or college as well. The last part of this kind of flexibility element of how university is different to school is that you can also take a degree part-time or just online, but these might take longer. So for lots of people, it's not as accessible for them to go to university and dedicate 3 years of their life every day. So they might want to do it part-time, say if they've got another job or if they have children, for example, or if they just want to stay at home and do it from home, they can do an online-only course as well. So support is a really important part of university because it's a big jump for a lot of people, potentially moving away from home, making completely new friends, doing something that you're not too sure about. It's a big jump. So there's lots and lots of support in place, just like at school, but it's slightly different and slightly more on a kind of more mature level. So here are some examples of support that's available to you if you were to go to university. So you'll get help with your studies from your tutors and your lecturers. So a tutor is someone like your form tutor at school who's assigned to you, who you can go and check in with at any time if you've got any questions or you're stuck on anything. And your lecturer is more like a teacher who will actually, give you those lectures and those presentations, and you can go to them if you've got any questions about specifically what they've taught you. Now, at Royal Holloway and lots of other universities, we buddy you up with older students who are on the same course as you, so that you can go to them if you've got any questions about your course. You'll get help with the kind of living and accommodation side from wardens and angels. Now, don't worry, they're not real angels. They are just other students who have been given that title to help you feel more settled into accommodation. And wardens people, staff who are employed by the university, who will be on site 24 hours a day to make sure that there's no problems with your accommodation. There are also lots of support facilities available to students who have got disabilities or any additional learning needs. And of course, there's campus security at all times at a university to make you feel safe. I'll show you the Royal Holloway campus in just a minute, but we've got security on site the whole time to make sure you're really safe and that there's no problems. Now, obviously, this is going to be a long, long way away for you, but in the future, you'll want to think about careers and getting a job. And every university, like Royal Holloway, will have their own careers department who will help you to write a CV, to get experience, to maybe find you a part-time or a full-time job once you've finished. They can help you with every step of the way so that you're not feeling, overwhelmed or unsure of what to do. And the last thing that's really important to know is if things get too much, which it can do, it's not every day is going to be perfect. There are university counsellors and wellbeing centres that can help you with any issues that you might have. Did you know that there are over 30,000 different degree courses to choose from to study at university? Now, some of these subjects you'll already have seen at school, like you can see here, English. So you're probably wondering, well, how on earth do we get to over 30,000? Where do they come from if you only study maybe 8, 9 or 10 of these at school? Well, as we've talked about, joint honours is an option. So you can see here, English could be combined with drama or history or creative writing or even a foreign language. But there are also a whole range of courses that you've probably never even heard of before that might be completely brand new. So as we talked about earlier, you might want to do midwifery or dentistry or medicine, or you might do something completely new like archaeology or criminology. Who knows? The possibilities are endless. We're going to do a little activity now just to show you some of these courses, and I'm going to show you some degrees that start with A, B and C because there are just so many. Where else can we start? What I'm going to do is I'm going to show you some images on the next few slides, and I'd like you to see if you can work out the degree name, okay? So this degree course starts with the letter A, and I want you to have a look at these images and see if you can think what the degree course might be called. So have a look at some of these. Any ideas popping into your mind? Okay, now lots of you are probably thinking art, maybe. Well, if you were thinking art, you are pretty much bang on correct. However, one of the most common degree courses that people choose at university related to art is called Art and Design. Okay, so it's a little bit more kind of focused towards designing things as well. Some other popular courses that start with the letter A are things like accountancy or aerospace engineering, maybe astrophysics, archaeology or architecture. Now let's have a look at the letter B. See if you can get any of these clues. Hopefully, lots of you got this one right. It would be to study biology. Some other popular courses that start with the letter B are things like biological sciences, building and planning, or business management. Looking at the letter C, see if you can work out what this degree course might be. This is a bit more tricky, I think. You've got some books, you've got a bit of a script going on there. Got some creative ideas, maybe that will help you, and some writing going on. Hopefully some of you got this right. The correct answer is creative writing, which is if you were to do a degree where you want to become a writer, so you create your own pieces of text, for example, stories or films or poems or anything like that. There's a whole degree out there if you really enjoy creative writing. Now, speaking from experience, you can also do creative writing modules, so just do one chunk of it at university. If you do, like, for example, an English degree, you can do a creative writing module. I actually did one that was all about writing pieces for the radio, and I absolutely loved that because I didn't want to do a whole degree in creative writing, but my degree in English let me do a little module in that area. Some other popular degrees that start with the letter C are chemistry, chemical engineering, civil engineering, computer science, or criminology, as we've talked about before. As I said, there are so many different courses, and these are only just a couple that we've looked at here. There are so many out there. Moving on slightly, we're going to now think about other elements of university that are very different compared to your school life. And this section is all about your lifestyle at university, about how you live at uni. So as I said I would show you, this is a map of our campus at Royal Holloway. Now, our name is Royal Holloway University of London, but if you've heard of us before, you'll know that we're not actually in London. We're in a little town called Egham, which is in Surrey. Now, if you're not sure where that is, don't worry. It's very near to places like Windsor, a little village called Englefield Green, Twickenham, if we've got any rugby fans out there. We're very near to Virginia Water, and we're lucky that we're only 40 minutes away to central London on the train. So we're in a really, really good position in the kind of southeast area of England. Now, you can see a map here of our university, which is called a campus. I wonder if any of you know what a campus is. Have a little think to yourself. Well, the answer is that a campus is an area of land where all of the university buildings are all in one place. So if you were to step onto this kind of map in real life, you would see that all of the buildings around you are owned by and used by Royal Holloway. So you can see here that the purple buildings are accommodation, which is where you would stay if you were a university student at Royal Holloway. The blue buildings are academic buildings where you would have your lectures or your seminars, which is like your kind of smaller lessons. And you can see the red buildings as well, and that's kind of social areas like our cafes and other such places. So to summarise, a campus is almost like a little mini village. As I said, your accommodation is there, maybe some shops, a doctor's surgery, a nightclub, restaurants, cafes, social areas. Royal Holloway is really lucky that we're very green and we've got beautiful woods and kind of forests and a lake and rivers going through our campus. There's also things like music venues, sports areas, a massive library, and lots of areas where you might be able to get a part-time job as well. So you could live your whole university life not even leaving this campus if you didn't want to. So a campus university is quite common in the UK, but there are also things like city universities, and Manchester is an example of that. And that's where all of the buildings are spread out completely across the city. So you might have a lecture in one building, but you walk out of that building and you're next to a police station, for example. So it's all completely blended into the city, and you would have to commute across that city to be able to get to your different lectures and accommodation. Now, when you're a lot older, you'll choose which university you want to go to, and you can just choose whichever kind of university, campus or city suits you and your personality. Now, let's show you what we mean by accommodation, which is on campus. So accommodation is where you stay when you're at university, and normally when you're in your first year you won't know very many people, so you stay in halls or accommodation that is on the university campus. Now at Royal Holloway the accommodation ranges from the really modern townhouses that you can see on the left, and also kind of flats and more kind of modern spaces, but there's also very historical buildings like Founders Building, which you can see on the right, which was built in the Victorian times, and you can stay in there as well. Again, it's up to you and your personality and what you would like from your uni experience. I'll show you an example of some Royal Holloway accommodation in just a minute. Again, on campus, there's so many opportunities to do nights out with your friends, or in the daytime, maybe grabbing a bite to eat between lessons. So you can see there the Students' Union on the left at Royal Holloway, where it's a really popular place for the students to meet up and have some really fun nights out together. And then on the right is our Boiler House Cafe, where you can go and get a bit of lunch or dinner with your friends. We're also really lucky at Royal Holloway that we've even got a theatre on campus, which is obviously amazing if that's the kind of thing that you're interested in. And we're also very fortunate to have a beautiful forest right in the heart of our campus that you can explore if you love getting outside. And of course, no university experience is complete without a trip to the library. This is the one at Royal Holloway, which is very, very new. Universities tend to have very large libraries, so it's much, much bigger than your school library, I assume. This is a whole building with several floors and different areas, and I don't even know how many books, thousands and thousands of books, and online journals. Now, we're really lucky to have over 1,000, so it's approximately 1,250 study spaces where you can go and study in silence. Now, if you remember rightly, we looked at the timetable where there's lots of blank spaces. You'll need to get some quiet time to do your work independently, and the library is an amazing place for students to be able to do that. Lots of libraries are 24/7 as well, so some of you night owls might be up at crazy hours doing your work if that's what works for you. Now, as I said, in first year at university, you might not know many people, so you'll stay in student halls, which are normally on campus. In your second and third year, you might make a really good group of friends, and then you will leave halls and go and stay in a house that's in the village or the town near to the university. But in the first year, most people do stay in these halls because it's really secure and a great way to meet people. Now, in halls, you will have your own room, so you don't have to share a room, but you get your own kind of bedroom. But you do normally share a kitchen, and that can be with anyone that's in the same building as you. It could be sharing it with 4 people, it could be sharing it with 8 people. It completely depends on the halls that you choose. Now, you are very independent when you move into university accommodation, if this is what you decide to do, which means that you have to do the cleaning and the cooking and the washing and the shopping and managing your money, which to some people might be a little bit scary, but trust me, it's an amazing, amazing life lesson. This is a kind of typical student room floor plan at Royal Holloway. This is quite a modern one, so you would kind of come in and you've got a space for your bed and a wardrobe, and then in the corner you've got a desk and some other furniture to be able to personalise that area and do some work too. And lots of the kind of modern student accommodation has got bathrooms built into them, so you'd get your own little ensuite if you wanted to. Now, this isn't the case with everything. If you wanted to have a shared bathroom with other people, that's normally cleaned for you. It just depends what kind of thing you would want. Now, the bedroom here comes with the furniture and all the internet and the bills. You don't have to worry about that in your first year. And then you'll be sharing a kitchen, which I'll show you in a minute. But this is the bedroom that you would have by yourself. This is an example of one of the Royal Holloway ones, and you can obviously see you can be personalised very, very easily. There it is. There's the picture of the kitchen. So you would share this with a number of people. But you would have your own kind of cupboards that are dedicated for you, so you do have your own space and your own food as well, so you don't have to share your food with everybody. I'm going to try, I don't think this is going to work actually, so there is a video of the student accommodation at Royal Holloway, but I have a horrible suspicion it's not going to work on this recorded PowerPoint. So what I will do is I will send out the link and hopefully your teachers can pass this on to you once this has been distributed. A really important side of university that again is very different from school is the social side. So every university will have their own students' union, and that's a place where students from the university take their free time and they develop clubs and societies where you can meet other people and do activities in something that you're really, really interested in. Now, Royal Holloway has got hundreds of different societies, and you'll start to see some of the names popping up here in anything to do with sports, languages, media, like radio, drama. There's a Harry Potter one. music, for your subjects like teaching or maths, salsa, humans versus zombies. There is a whole array of different societies that you can get involved with. And lots of societies obviously mean that you have many, many opportunities to try out new things if you've never tried them before. But lots of universities will also say that if the society that you want to get involved with doesn't exist, you can make it. So if you wanted to make a pottery society, you could get involved and you could make that and become a club at the university if it doesn't already exist. Hopefully lots of you are into your sports as well, because that's a really important part for some people in their university career. So again, these are some of the examples of the clubs that are just based for sports at university if you wanted to get involved and do some kind of competitions for your university. Now, this isn't obligatory. It's not like PE at school. You don't have to do any sports if you don't want to, but there is a whole array of things there that you can try if you want to. I was never that sporty at school, but when I got to university, there were different kind of clubs that I'd never tried before. So I got involved in a few things that I'd never thought I would do. And actually, I really, really enjoyed them after that. So you never know. As I mentioned before, research is a really, really important part of universities, and this is another way that university is completely different from schools. So a lot of the money that is invested into universities goes into life-changing research done by professionals who want to improve things in the world. So universities use their teachers or their lecturers, the students and the facilities that they have to change the world. And this could be for any subject. I know at Royal Holloway very recently we've just had a really historical, fascinating discovery from one of our lecturers. So it could be from history, it could be from science, it could be anything. And universities get money from places like the European Union, the UK government, or private companies to pay for this research. Now, you might have heard of something called coronavirus. It's been quite relevant in the news quite recently. So I'm sure you'll have heard that a UK university has recently developed a COVID-19 vaccine in under a year. And the normal vaccine development is between 5 to 10 years, if it's even possible at all. So to be able to produce this vaccine in even less than a year is absolutely incredible, and really shows how important this university research is. It's going to change the world. A different university has put their time into researching solar panels. So they discovered that solar panels reflect more sunlight than they can convert to electricity. So we would call this efficiency, which in 2021 is only about 10 to 25%, which is quite low. So UK universities have already developed these panels that are 42% efficient, meaning that they're more than double the efficiency than they were before, which means that it's about double the amount of electricity that's generated. So without that research from the university, we'd all still be using these solar panels that are quite weak and only make the most of less than 25% of the sunlight that is projected onto them. But now with the research from universities, we're getting much, much more efficient and powerful solar panels. Now, this is something from Royal Holloway that we've been researching quite recently. So this is something that I want you to imagine here. I want you to imagine that the year is 2035. Self-driving cars are a common sight on the roads or charging up outside a supermarket. I'm kind of on our way already. Now, they don't have steering wheels or pedals. What happens if it breaks down? Now, this is precisely the question that Royal Holloway students and staff are working to answer at the moment. So their research is helping to look into this question. The people who are researching this think that there will be call centres where people take control of the car and virtually pilot you to a repair centre or back home, depending on what's happened to your car. Their research is looking into the psychology of being a virtual pilot on unfamiliar roads with a passenger in the car that you've never met before. So it's really, really crazy to think how this might change in the future. And this is something that Royal Holloway is looking into right now. Again, there's something else that Royal Holloway has been looking into. So a Royal Holloway professor and his team recreated the vocal organs of a priest from ancient Egypt. They scanned the mummified body so that we could hear what their voice would have sounded like. Now the mummy is over 3,000 years old. I'm going to show you a picture. If you're feeling a little bit squeamish, you might want to look away. It's not too bad, but I'm about to show you a picture of the mummy, a real mummy. So look away now if you're not too keen. There he is. That's the ancient Egyptian mummy that we are looking at, who was a priest back in his time. Now, the team at Royal Holloway had to find a mummified body that had an intact larynx and tongue, so the vocal cords had to be intact and ready to use. Now, what they did was they did 3D scans of the soft tissue, and then they made that into a 3D printed model and used digital sound equipment to replicate common vowel sounds. Again, I'm going to send the link to the video if you do want to listen to that. I'm going to turn that away so you can have a look now if you